We're going to be working on the area of triangles today, and I'm sure you're used to that old standard area of a triangle where the area is 1/2 the base times the height. And that's all well and good when you're in geometry and maybe you're given the base and the height, but as you know, we've been given triangles with maybe 3 pieces of information. And so I have that broken down in all the different variations of ways that we can get that information, like side, angle, side. Remember what that looks like. So that's a side, an angle, and a side, where the angle has to fall between the two sides. And then we could have an angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. Remember, the difference between the two, again, is the location of the side. The side has to be between the two angles, an angle, side, angle. The side has to be outside. It could also be marked on that third side as well, but just not the one that's in between. And then, of course, we have side, 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 where we're given all 3 sides. And then we finish it up with our side, side angle, the troublemaker. And it continues to be the troublemaker today when we work through these. So side, side, angle. Again, it doesn't really matter which angle I pick. I could pick any one of the bottom 2 to be a side, side angle, just not the top one, because that would be a side, angle, side, where the angle would fall between the 2 sides. But depending on the scenario, we're going to use different area formulas that tweak itself kind of for that. So if I label my picture as this is angle C and I'm given side A and side B, the formula that I'm going to use is this guy here. They use K for area of a triangle. And remember, as your sides move or the letters move, these all the things kind of change, but the look is still the same. And when I use the formula, I need to have side, angle, side, so 2 sides and an included angle, and then the 2 sides are what I'm going to plug in times the sine of the angle to get the area. And it actually works out to be pretty nice. Pretty easy. You can just sort of, once you recognize which one you're using, you plug it in your calculator. As for angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side, the key here is that I'm going to need to find the third side in order to use this. And that's not too big of a task because I just have to subtract the 2 I know from 180. The key with this one is that whichever angle I am going to put on the bottom, that's got to be the one that's across from the one side I know. And so the letter position is really, really important when we're doing this. Make sure that you put it in the right position. So for example, I'd have to find A to use side A. And then the other 2 angles would be my B and my C. And likewise, on this picture that I drew here, I have A that's across from side A, and then the other 2 would be B and C. So again, it just sort of depends on the situation. Don't overthink the letters. It's really more about the location that they're in. Another thing that we need to make sure that we work through when we're working through these is we're going to have to be able to be good calculator operators. And so when I plug this whole thing in the bottom, I need to make sure that I close that in parentheses. Otherwise, the order of operations will take over and I'll end up with the wrong answer. So some of the things that we talk about are going to be more like putsy things, like how to work through your calculator. It's not as hard to figure out which formula you use. It's more difficult to make sure that you're doing it right. Next, we have our side, 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 where maybe I have A, B, C labeled as my sides. This one you can't be too crazy with. It's just you get 3 sides. The S stands for the semi-perimeter, and the semi-perimeter is part of the formula that we use. The semi-perimeter is just that, half of the perimeter, so I add up all the sides and I divide by 2. Make sure, again, that you're using your calculator properly, so make sure when you plug it in, A plus B plus C, hit equals or close it in parentheses and then divide by 2. And then my area formula is the square root of the semi-perimeter times the semi-perimeter minus one side minus the other side minus the third side, and multiply all those things together. And so the last situation that we have is the side-side angle. Remember I said this guy's the troublemaker. It remains the troublemaker. I'm going to have to use law of sines or law of cosines and figure out missing stuff and use one of the other formulas. And that's just the way it is. So figure out, maybe find a missing, you have enough information here that you could find a missing angle, find the third angle, and then work your way through, or whatever. You could use any form that you want to here. But let's just jump right in and work. You're going to need a calculator. Make sure your calculator's in degrees again. Draw your picture. Figure out what scenario you have. STR. I've got angle S is 61. I've got side P is 10. I've got side R is 15. This is definitely a side angle side. So my area is 1/2 10 times 15 times the sine of 61. Plug it in your calculator, call it a day. So I have, I'm sure you guys will plug it in hopefully while I'm plugging it in, and we can compare our answers. So I got 65.6. This is area, so I'll call this units squared. They didn't give me a measurement to follow off of, so units squared. Right? So again, I draw my picture. I recognize what I have. So this is K, H, P. I've got side P, side H, side K. Clearly this is a side, side, side. So I'll have to find my semi-perimeter. 9 plus 9 plus 5.7. Plug that in the calculator, hit equals, and then divide by 2. And so when I find my semi-perimeter, I get 11.85. That's what's going to go into my formula for my area. So K is equal to the square root of 11.85. That's my semi-perimeter times 11.85 minus 9 times 11.85 minus 9, the second 9, times 11.85 minus 5.7. And then it's a matter again of plugging it in your calculator. I'm going to pause and do that, and you guys pause and figure it out, and then we'll meet back in a moment. So I got the square root of, I kept it inside of there, 591.947, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch more on that, but I'll do the square root of that, and I get 24.3 units squared. I'm gonna, again, if I made an error, hopefully you guys agree with me. If I made an error, I'll check back and make a comment on it, but it's just, then it was an error of me plugging it in. So moving on, we'll try our next one. Again, just drawing your picture and picking the formula that you're going to use. So in this one I have H, P, K, across from K is 9, angle H is 20, angle P is 139. This is clearly an angle side angle situation. I know I'm going to have to find the third angle. So the third angle is 180 minus 139 minus 20. And I get 21 for that angle, 21 degrees. And so then when I use my formula, it's going to be 9 squared times the sine of 20. It's going to close that off in parentheses when I plug it in my calculator, times the sine of 139. Again, I'm going to close that off when I plug it in my calculator, divided by parenthesis 2 times the sine of that last one, 21. I'm going to have to close that off. So a lot of parentheses in there. Please make sure that you're putting the parentheses in when you use your calculator. Calculator is only as good as the person using it, so you have to make sure that you're using it correctly. So again, I plug all of that stuff in. I'm going to pause it again and then revisit back, and we'll compare our answers. And I got my area here to be 25.35, so 25.4. Again, we'll go units squared. So I think we've gone through every possible scenario other than the side-side angle. And again, in the side-side angle, you're just going to have to figure out a missing piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the answers. You can pause this, work through, see how you do, and then check your answers. If you have any questions or concerns, then you can just look back at it. So I'll talk to you shortly. Okay, so these are the final answers. There could be a little bit of a discrepancy in the decimal, depending on how you rounded when you plugged them in. Again, the key is that the 12 that goes on top, so the sign of 141 is across from that, that has to go on the bottom. And the next one, it's a similar one because the 4 is the angle, or the side I know. The sign of 21, the angle across from that had to go on the bottom. I had to do the law of sines to find angle T, and then I used angle T to find angle S. So I had to do a little bit of work because this was that side-side angle situation that gives us a bit of a problem. Again, here, the rounding could change it. So if you did it a different way, maybe you'd get 14.4 units squared. It depends on which angle you use and which formula you use. So it's about season. I'll keep that in mind. Show your work. And then the last one is the side, side, side. So it's the semi-perimeter. Don't forget its area, so put your labels on appropriately. A very calculator generated. If you come across any questions, as always, make sure you ask. And we will talk tomorrow.